they have a characteristic intranuclear inclusion, and they may appear as multinucleated giant cells. Now, this time, when you examine the patient, you saw a nodule with dimpled center. Okay? Ibig sabihin, may parang central umbilication. If that is your PE finding, think of molluscum contagiosum. MCV or molluscum contagiosum is usually appearing as dome papule with dimpled center, and this time the inclusion is intracytoplasmic. Okay? Next. For example, the patient came in because of pruritus. And when you do your examination, you notice that there is curd-like discharge. Again, I'm mentioning the key points that you have to look for. Curd-like discharge with vulvovaginal pruritus, more likely is fungal. You do KOH or you do pap smear, and even you can also do additional tests like PAS, which is what I'm showing you right now. It appears or highlights the hyphal elements as pink. This is periodic acid sheaf. Or you can also do Gomorrhea methenamine silver stain, which will then put it as black. Okay? So again, vulvovaginal pruritus and curd-like discharge. What if it appears as strawberry cervix? Mapula masyado. Okay? This is a clue that more likely your patient is having Trichomonas vaginalis. Trichomonas are easily seen on pap smear. As you can see, the arrowheads are here. So that PAPS, if you're following my discussion, is actually a good tool in which you can diagnose infection. Next one is Gardnerella, still an infection. But what is the clue? Usually it is fishy odor vaginal discharge. Again, fishy odor vaginal discharge. The normal flora is lactobacilli. Okay? When it shifts to coccobacilli, this is how it looks like. This is what you call as shift in flora. Shift in flora and the presence of clue cells. Clue cells are squamous epithelial cells with a lot of coccobacilli in the cytoplasm. They are what you call as clue cells. This is implicative of Gardnerella vaginalis. Okay? So, what do you do then? Aside from PAPS, you can do culture. When you do culture, these are other organisms that may be associated and can be easily identified on routine culture of the discharge. There is a thing called PID, pelvic inflammatory disease. When you're talking of PID, it usually presents clinically as follows: pelvic pain, adnexal tenderness, fever, and discharge. Okay? Take note that it is called pelvic because the involvement is often in the fallopian tubes and ovaries. Again, the involvement is in the fallopian tubes and ovaries. So the term is oophoritis, salpingitis. Together, sometimes they are both involved, and that is what you call as salpingo-oophoritis. Okay? Now, the usual etiology is, as you can see, gonococci. Now, the gonococci, the screening, di ba, may discharge siya. So what you can do is request for gram stain of the discharge and look for the report should contain gram-negative intracellular diplococci. Okay? Gram-negative intracellular diplococci, as you can see here. The discharge can also be subjected to culture in which you isolate Neisseria gonorrhea. This is an example of a patient with PID ending up with TABSO. Ano ba yung TABSO? Total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. As you can see here, the white thing that you see are actually implicative that there is peritonitis. yon. So, di ba, you start with either salpingitis or oophoritis or salpingo-oophoritis. If you cannot control the infection, it then sometimes develop abscess. As you all know, abscess is suppurative inflammation. It can lead to what you call as peritonitis. So this is an example of peritonitis, and this is an example also of the long-term sequelae. Infection heals by fibrosis. So the usual problem among patients who had history of PID is that the fibrosis causes adhesions which may lead to infertility problems and even ectopic pregnancies. Okay? So that's an example of PID case. Now, I mentioned that the usual is gonococcal, but then again, it can also be non-gonococcal causes. So, bottom line is, you have to do culture. So, as I was explaining, this is what I am trying to teach you. PID can eventually go into bacteremia and even septicemia if you cannot control the infection. So, number 2, as I have said, the adhesions and fibrosis can give rise to fertility problems and even ectopic pregnancy. So you have to give the right antibiotic. That's why, as I have said, you have to do gram stain and culture and sensitivity. Okay, let's go now to the vulva. The first lesion is a benign cyst called Bartholin. So ulit vulva Bartholin. Now, this lesion, as you can see here, looks like this. This one is an actual patient. The treatment is you excise the lesion, okay? Sometimes the Bartholins can be infected and develop into an abscess. But usually, the excision is sufficient for the treatment. The lining epithelium is columnar, and as you can see here, you may see chronic inflammatory infiltrates because, as I have said, it may be also infected for some patients. Now, there is a thing called non-neoplastic epithelial disease. The classic clinical finding is leukoplakia, kulay puti. Okay? How does it look like? It looks like this. So when you see this on physical exam, leukoplakia, okay, is the term, you think of two things. You're looking at the patient, leukoplakia is positive, you think of two things. Is this lichen sclerosus, or is this, the second one is squamous hyperplasia? Okay, ulit leukoplakia, ano hahanapin mo? You think of two things, lichen sclerosus, squamous hyperplasia. To distinguish, you need to do a biopsy. Lichen sclerosus classically has thinned out epidermis. Squamous hyperplasia, from the term itself, the squamous is thick. Okay? Sclerosus, from the term itself, there should be dermal collagen fibrosis. Okay? Fibrosis in the dermis is characteristic. For squamous hyperplasia, it is usually with a lot of inflammatory infiltrates, predominantly composed of lymphocytes. Usually, leukocytic infiltration is evident. Now, there are also exophytic lesions. When you say exophytic, meaning it protrudes out of the mucosa. Okay? It is usually polypoid and pedunculated. So, what is the operation? You cut through the peduncle or the stalk. These are examples of such lesions. One is fibroepithelial polyp, and the other one is squamous cell papilloma. They are both benign lesions. They are lined by squamous epithelium. And as you can see, for fibroepithelial polyp, it is usually polypoid, supported by fibrovascular stroma. Papilloma, from the term itself, gives rise to finger-like projections. Okay. I'm now dealing with condyloma acuminata. Points of emphasis. They are usually, the HPV has 15 types. Okay? When you're dealing with HPV, you have to remember that there are two groups, low risk and high risk when we're talking of female genital infection. Under low risk, you have 6 and 11. Okay? 6 and 11. Under high risk, you have 16, 18, and 31. Okay? Ulitin natin ha. Ano ulit yung low risk? 6 and 11. Sa high risk, ano ulit? 16, 18, and 31. Okay? Now, this is an example of low risk in which, as you can see, there is branching, hyperkeratosis, and hyperplasia of the squamous epithelium. Take note, do not forget the first description there, first bullet. This is what you call as coilocytes. Okay? Coilocytes are suggestive of HPV infection. So when you see coilocytes, it is suggestive of HPV infection. When you say intraepithelial lesion, it means that it is confined to the squamous epithelium. I'm going to discuss that a little later in more detail. But for now, take note that when we're talking of vulva, the most common type of carcinoma is squamous. Okay? Squamous. I said that HPV needs to be grouped into two sa utak nyo. One is low risk, and yung isa, high risk. When you're talking of squamous, you're talking of the high risk group. Okay? High risk group gives rise to SCCA, which is divided into two. SCCA can be HPV related or non-HPV related. When it's HPV related, the usual morphology that it will give you is basaloid and warty. If it is non-HPV related, it will usually give you keratinizing SCCA. Did you get that? Okay? Now, let us discuss further. So, this is an example of a lesion with dysplasia on the full thickness plus keratinizing. So, side question. Is this HPV or non-HPV? What is your answer? Keratinizing. Keratinizing is HPV. Keratinizing is usually not related to HPV. So my first question here, ano dapat na sagot? Not related to HPV. Okay, second example. Basaloid and warty. Okay, balikan ko yung first slide ko ha. Basaloid and warty are related to HPV. Ano mga number ang kailangan natin pag high risk? HPV 16, 18, 31. Okay? Among the three, anong pinaka-common? 16. Okay? 16 is the most common. So, if it is HPV related, you think of two morphologic types. One is what you call as basaloid, and the other one is what you call as warty. Okay? Now, the other one, as I have said, is keratinizing. Pag may keratin, ano ulit yun? Non-HPV related. It is usually associated with lichen sclerosus and squamous cell hyperplasia. Side question for recall. What is the classic gross finding for lichen sclerosus and squamous cell hyperplasia? Na sinabi ko kanina. Leukoplakia. Diba? Leukoplakia is your clue that more likely your patient is having lichen sclerosus or squamous cell hyperplasia. Take note, for keratinizing, it is usually non-HPV related. Now, as I have written it here, you have to look for keratin pearls. Keratin pearls are important. Why? Because they tell you the degree of differentiation. Okay? Now, some are papillary-like lesions, and this is what you call as papillary hydradenomas. They are usually confined in the underlying dermis. Okay. So, leukoplakia, puti. Okay. What if you see this? These are examples of pruritic red crusted lesions. This should make you think of Paget's. Okay? Paget's disease, as you can see here, these are your pagetoid cells. They appear as halo from the epithelial cells. Paget's disease characteristically appear as red crusted lesion. Okay, I'm moving now to the vagina. The first few pages or chapter, paragraph is actually talking about developmental anomalies. So I have added the image because yun yung medyo mas mabilis maintindihan ang difference nila. Like septate or double vagina. Now, let's go to the next disease, which is adenosis. For adenosis, take note that you should remember or ask DES exposure. DES stands for diethylstilbestrol. DES can eventually give rise to adenosis. Adenosis, rare cases, can go into what you call as clear cell carcinoma. Okay? Clear cell carcinoma. Now, sa kanina, ano tawag sa vulva? Bartholin. Pag nasa vagina, you call it Gardner. Hindi natin sa vulva, it is Bartholin. Pag sa vagina, there is also another one like that. It looks the same. That's Gardner duct cyst. Now, for vaginal tumors, still the most common is squamous. Pero, read the second bullet here. They are usually coming from the cervix or the vulva. Okay? Again, they are usually coming from the cervix or the vulva. If you are dealing with children, malignancy, think of what you call as sarcoma botryoides or embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma. They appear as grape-like clusters. I'm going to show you a little later how it looks like. And the botryoides, the T in botryoides, should remind you of tennis racket appearance of the cells. The tumor cells are characteristically exhibiting tennis or tumor-like tennis racket appearance. Okay. I said that there is a thing called intraepithelial neoplasia. At this point, I would like to say that it occurs in the vulva, vagina, and cervix. Okay, ulitin ko Intraepithelial neoplasia can occur in the vulva, vagina, and cervix. When you read your book, you will encounter these letters IN. IN stands for intraepithelial neoplasia. VA stands for vagina. So meaning we're trying to study a lesion coming from the vagina, VAIN1. For purposes of recall, what I personally did is to, the number that is assigned is actually corresponding to the atypia. Because in intraepithelial neoplasia, you are looking for atypia. So, if it is confined to the lower 1/3, that's actually VAIN1. That goes the same for the vulva, that goes the same for the cervix. Otherwise known as mild dysplasia. If you see coilocytes, again, as I have said, this is usually related to HPV infection. If you see atypia occupying 2/3 of the epithelium, that's moderate dysplasia. So this is an example of moderate. If you see full thickness, this is an example of severe, and that is your type 3 or VAIN3. Now, again, crusted red map-like lesion should remind you of Paget's. Ay, nandiyan na siya. Masyadong malamig no? No, ma'am. Parang inuubo na kami. At lahat kami nakaganon. So, this Paget's disease is actually, again, the same thing that I have shown you in the vulva. So, sabi ko nga, it is usually squamous. And as I have mentioned, it is check the cervix and the vulva, because in the vagina, it is usually coming either from the cervix or the vulva. Okay. Ito yun, yung kaninang tinuturo ko na, which is among children. This is what you call as sarcoma botryoides or embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma. As I have said, the tumor appears as grape-like clusters like this in the external genitalia. Take note, the characteristic description of tumor cells is tennis racket appearance. There is the so-called cambium layer. In this image, this is actually the cambium layer, the one on top. It is just simply saying that in the cambium layer, the cells are more crowded or dense. And then it is supported by loose fibrocollagenous or fibromyxoid stroma. So do not forget that is your sarcoma botryoides. Okay. Let's go to the cervix. So again, this is something that might have been introduced to you already when you did micro HSV. And point of emphasis, if you will read your book, it says there that HPV likes to thrive in this area at the squamocolumnar junction. Okay? So when you do your pap smear is otherwise known as cervicovaginal cytology. Cervicovaginal cytology because you have to sample the cervix and the vaginal wall. So something like this. That far end is your vaginal wall. This one is your cervix that's open. And as you can see, there's secretion. So when you do your swab, you actually swab the vaginal wall and the cervix. There is a test, this is mentioned in Robbins, and that's what you call as the acetic acid test. OB-GYN will apply acetic acid. And usually the area where there is lesion, it turns white. That area is positive, and that area should be the one that is sampled. Cervix are supposed to be smooth like this. No erosion, no discoloration. Okay? Now, if you see this, again, you have to swab the side. You have to insert the swab into the os and sample again because you're trying to get samples from the transformation zone. This is because it is where dysplasia or malignancy eventually may arise. When you are interpreting the cervix, you have to always remember that normally, the upper portion should be anucleated. Walang nuclei. Okay? Now, the exception is when the patient is menopausal because in atrophy, you can appreciate that the nuclei is still observed, but it should have no atypia. Okay? No atypia. Because if you will recall what I was saying with intraepithelial neoplasia, you are actually looking for atypia. When atypia is present, that is what you call as intraepithelial neoplasia or dysplasia. Dysplasia, as I have mentioned, can actually be categorized into three. Now, cervicitis is a common complaint among women. It can actually be diagnosed using PAPs, which as I have shown you a while ago. But on tissue sections, it can actually be, you do a biopsy and you then differentiate whether it's acute or chronic cervicitis. Acute neutrophils, chronic lymphocytes, and macrophages. When I was discussing PAPs, I said that the normal organism should be lactobacilli. Your pH should be, that's what I want to add now, should be on the acidic side. Okay? But when you have these activities, it shifts to alkaline side and you are now more prone to develop cervicitis. Now, another thing that you can do is to do a culture of the discharge so that you can identify the organisms that I have enumerated in this slide. So, it can also be that your patient presents with vaginal spotting. Spotting And when you do a speculum, you see a pedunculated lesion in the cervix. Commonly, these are benign lesions called endocervical polyp. They are usually polypoid, pedunculated with a stalk. So the operation is what you call as polypectomy. You cut through the stalk, and we actually see this histologically. The glands are the same as the normal endocervical epithelium. It is supported by fibrocollagenous stroma. So, this slide just emphasizes what I have already been talking about, which is HPV 16, 18, and 31. You have to ask delicate questions, like what? You have multiple partners. What is your age of first sexual intercourse? Okay? Are you having unusual practices? Okay? Why? Because these are examples of risk factors that would lead you to believe that more likely your patient is having a sexually transmitted disease. This is again a repetition of condyloma. This is the benign variant, which as I have said is of the low risk type. Ano ulit pag low risk? HPV 6 and 11. But again, there is the high risk group, which is 16, 18, and 31. Now, HPV classically gives you mild dysplasia. Nagkakaintindihan na ba tayo pag mild? CIN1, meaning atypia in the lower one-third with coilocytes. Coilocytes can also be seen on PAPs as halo surrounding the nucleus of your squamous cells. So, when you do your workup, you can actually do pap smear followed by biopsy if you see an interpretation of LCIL on your paps. What is LCIL? I'm going to introduce that a little later. Further, ito na pala. A little later pala is now. Okay? When you say LCIL, that means low-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. When you say HCIL, it means high grade. Okay? Mild dysplasia is LCIL. HCIL is moderate and severe. Now, as you can see from this table, it's divided into three. It's directly lifted from your book. It can regress, it can persist, or it can progress to squamous cell carcinoma. Now, if you're going to take a look at this, I'm actually trying to describe now CIN. So as I have mentioned, atypia in the lower one-third is mild, two-thirds is moderate, full thickness is severe. CIN1, mild dysplasia, is otherwise known as LCIL. Ano ulit ang ibig sabihin ng LCIL? Low-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. HCIL is 2 and 3, which stands for high-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. You look for atypia. This is what atypia is. Okay? Increased nucleocytoplasmic ratio, coarse chromatin pattern, prominent nucleoli, atypical mitotic figures. Speaking of mitotic figures, you can actually highlight the mitotic figures by doing a marker called Ki67. As I have mentioned, CIN is usually related to HPV. You can do a marker for HPV, and that is what we call as P16. Okay? P16. Now, so, this is PAPS, because as I have said, what do you usually do? You do a speculum, you do a cervicovaginal cytology, and then if it turns out to be malignant, you confirm that with colposcopy with biopsy. Okay? So, take note of the images I'm showing you right now. I'm just trying to tell you that PAPS can actually diagnose LCIL or HCIL. The difference is actually on the nucleocytoplasmic ratio. If you're going to observe it, look at normal first. That is a normal squamous and intermediate cell. These are on this side is LCIL, and on the lower portion is HCIL. As I have said, HCIL is supposed to be on tissues, moderate and severe dysplasia. As the nuclei enlarges, the cytoplasm decreases in its size. That is the problem in PAPS. Nucleocytoplasmic ratio is what you have to observe. Okay. PAPS is abnormal. What do you do next? You do biopsy. In the biopsy, that should confirm the dysplasia. So as I have mentioned, the dysplasia, you try to assess, is it lower only? Is it 2/3? Or is it full thickness atypia? That will then classify your patient as in L-cell versus H-cell. And then at the back of your mind, isipin mo ulit yung table. Will this regress? Will this persist? Or will this progress? So, this is an example of L-cell. You have atypia in the 1/3. You have quite both tissue and PAPS. Now, this is what I have been trying to explain. You can have a mitotic index marker, which is Ki67. You can actually highlight the presence of HPV using HPV DNA or P16. That confirms that the lesion is HPV related. So, icebreaker, L-cell, H-cell. Seal lang narinig ko Ano to? H. This is H. Why? Wala na halos cytoplasm. Okay? So ano gagawin mo sunod? Papabiopsy mo yung patient. Okay? Pag H-cell, anong ina-expect mo sa biopsy? Dapat moderate or severe dysplasia. Okay? So eto dapat. Diba? Sige nga, iba-iba yan. Ano to? 2 or 3? Hey, 2 or 3? 2. Okay, bakit? Nandito lang eh. Ito. Obviously, 3. Okay, this is giveaway. 3 to. Ito. Mukhang 3 rin. Bakit? Nandito eh. Diba? Full thickness atypia. Full thickness, 2/3. So this is what? 3, 2, 3. Okay? All of which are H-cell. Okay? Ato, giveaway. CIN3. Okay? So, if you're trying to monitor your patient, sometimes you can have MICA. Ano yung MICA? Microinvasive carcinoma. Okay? So take note di ba? Sabi ko kanina, L-cell, H-cell. Regress, di ba? Progress. Pag progress is ano? Di ba meron siyang regress, persist, progress. Pag progress, meaning it can go into malignancy. When you say malignancy, it can be MICA, microinvasive carcinoma, which means you only see the invasion when you take a look at it under the microscope. You don't see any visible lesion when you do the speculum exam. And then you also have your invasive. So I'm now talking of cervical cancer. They are usually squamous, first type. Second type is adenocarcinoma. Number 3 is a mixture of both, adenosquamous. Number 4 is the neuroendocrine group, which may either be small cell or large cell. Now, this is an example of a patient with cervical carcinoma. That is how the cervix is looking. Kanina I showed you normal, smooth, right? But as you can see now, there is a mass. Between the two, which one is more nakakatakot? This one. Why? Because as you can see, it's circumferential already. Here, the mass is from the 3 o'clock to around 7 o'clock position. Okay? Now, let's take another patient. This is TABSO. Okay? So, ano mangyayari sa patient? Usually, pag na-diagnose mo siya as H-cell or carcinoma on biopsy, you do TABSO. TABSO is the typical thing that is done in this patient because as you can see, the mass is quite large. So this is already cervical carcinoma. What I'm trying to show you is the extent of invasion. This is already the lower uterine segment, this is the ectocervix, and this is the endocervical canal. So as you can see in this patient, it spans from the ectocervix going into the lower uterine, and it actually extends beyond. Okay? So for such cases, usually the prognosis is more difficult. More so for this. Why? Because this time I'm showing you already an example of, this is the uterus, that's the endometrial cavity. That is your tumor, which is now going out and basically adhering to the bowel loops sa taas. So anong ginawang procedure? You have tabso with colectomy.